chosen one. Yes, you. The one who felt the air change a moment ago before you knew why. The one who has been quieter than usual today, carrying something you haven't set down yet. Before we begin, do something for me. Sit down. If there's a door near you, close it. Put your phone face down on the table, screen against the wood, where nothing can reach for you while we talk. Unclench your jaw, you didn't notice you were holding it, and breathe out, all the way out. Not a polite little breath, the long one, the one that empties you completely, and let the next breath arrive on its own. Good. That's the chosen one I'm speaking to. Now listen, because tonight something is being understood in a place you are not standing. Somewhere, in a room you already walked out of, the quiet is finally being heard for what it is. And that room has gone cold. You didn't slam anything. That's the part that matters. You didn't make a speech. You didn't stand in the doorway and list the ways they failed you. You did the one thing they were never braced for. You went quiet. You gathered what was yours, and you left without a scene. And your quiet exit is costing them more right now than any fight you could have picked would ever have cost them. More than shouting, more than an argument won, more than a door slammed hard enough to rattle the frame. Because you took something with you when you left, something they never once valued while it was in the room, something they will not be able to name for a while yet, and by the time they can name it, it will already be gone past recovering. But I'm getting ahead of us. Hold the who and the what for now. We'll get there. Right now, I only need you to feel the temperature in that room, because that temperature is real, and it is dropping. For a long time, they treated your presence as furniture. That's the honest word, furniture. Something that is simply there, that holds a corner of the room, that you stop seeing after the first week because it never asks to be seen. They walked past you the way you walk past a load-bearing wall, never once wondering what it holds up, because it has never failed, and a thing that never fails becomes a thing you forget is working. They built everything on that. The whole comfortable structure of their days rested on one belief, and the belief was simple. This one will always be here. This one absorbs. This one stays. This week, that belief broke. It wasn't loud. I need you to understand that, because you keep expecting the consequence to look like a consequence. It doesn't. It looks like a small wrongness that nobody can place. Maybe a task that always got handled somehow didn't get handled, and no one knew it was ever a task. Maybe a silence sat in a room that used to be filled, and everyone felt it, and no one could say what was missing. Maybe someone reached for the thing that was always there, the steady thing, the one who caught it, and their hand closed on air. But somewhere, the temperature in a room dropped. Not because you raised your voice on the way out. You didn't say a word. It dropped because your absence started doing the talking. And your absence is more eloquent than you ever were allowed to be while you were standing there. Here is what they are only now beginning to feel. Every weight you carried without being asked, every friction you smoothed before anyone felt it catch, every hard edge you softened so quietly that the room believed the room was simply soft. All of it walked out the door with you, in one bag, without a sound. And now the edges are back, and nobody in that room knows how to hold them, because they never knew you were the one holding them in the first place. Imagine this, an old stone arch over a doorway, standing 100 years, and at the top of it, right in the center, one stone shaped differently from all the others. The keystone. Every other stone in the arch is pushing, leaning, wanting to fall inward, And the keystone is the one that takes all of that pressure and turns it into the thing that holds them up. Nobody looks at it. It is the least decorated stone in the whole wall. People pass under that arch for years and admire the carved ones on the sides, and never once look up at the plain gray stone doing all the work. Then one day, the keystone is quietly removed. And for a moment, this is the part that matters. Nothing happens. The arch still stands. Everyone walks under it exactly as before. And then the pushing starts to be felt, stone against stone, with nothing at the center to answer it. And the whole thing begins its slow lean toward the ground it was always going to lean toward the second the plain gray stone was gone. That's the room. That's this week. You were the plain gray stone, and you're gone. And, chosen one, let me put something down for you before we go further, because I know what you've been carrying. No, you did not overreact. No, you did not leave too soon. No, you were not selfish for finally taking yourself out of a place that used you and called it love, or called it loyalty, or called it just the way things are. The leaving was not the failure. The staying that long was the sacrifice. What felt like walking away was the first honest thing that room had felt in years. If this is landing where it's supposed to land, chosen one, do one small thing. Tap the like and subscribe. Not for me. This message goes further when it moves. And somewhere out there tonight is someone standing in a hallway with a bag half packed, wondering if their quiet leaving even counts, wondering if anyone will feel it, wondering if they matter enough to be missed. Pay it forward to them. Let it reach the next chosen one who needs to hear that they do. That's the whole mission. Now, let me tell you what has actually been happening in the room you left. The absence got loud without you raising your voice. Nobody had to be told you were gone for the room to know. The knowing arrived on its own, the way cold arrives when a fire goes out, not as an event, just as a slow, spreading fact that gets harder to ignore by the hour. You didn't perform your leaving. You weren't meant to. Here's the line they can't say out loud. You didn't take anything of theirs. You took something of yours that they had been living off of, and they never once thought to ask whose it was. Those are different things entirely, and only one of them can be called back. So here's the name for what you took when you left. The keeping, the quiet keeping. The steady, unasked, unthanked work of being the one who holds, who notices before anyone else notices, who catches the thing before it drops, who absorbs the bad day so it doesn't become everyone's bad week, who is so reliable that reliability itself becomes invisible. You took the keeping with you, and that, chosen one, is a thing that cannot be untaken. Look around your own life for a moment. Not the big story, the small rooms. There is a household somewhere right now where one person has always been the one who remembers. The birthdays, the appointments, the low milk in the fridge, the mood in the room before it turns into a fight. Nobody thanks them for it, because nobody knows it is happening. It looks like the house simply runs. And then that person gets tired, or gets sick, or finally gets wise and stops carrying the calendar in their chest. And the house does not fall apart in a day. It falls apart in 100 small forgettings, each one landing on people who never knew they were being remembered for. There is a friendship, a family, a whole circle somewhere, held together by one person who always reaches out first, who makes the plan, who smooths the awkwardness, who carries the thread from one gathering to the next so the group stays a group. And that person, one day, simply stops reaching, doesn't announce it, doesn't accuse anyone, just stops. And the group discovers, slowly, with a confusion it cannot name, that it was never really a group. It was a wheel, and that person was the center. And without the center, the spokes just fall. There are entire lives built on this. One quiet keeper and a whole crowd of people who believe the peace is the natural weather of the place and never once suspect that the peace has a name and a face and a limit. So here is the law underneath all of it. The work that keeps a thing standing is invisible right up until it stops, and then it is the only thing anyone can see. Say that to yourself twice, chosen one. While the keeping is present, it is nothing. It is air, it is furniture, it is the plain gray stone nobody looks at. The moment it is gone, it becomes the whole story. It becomes the shape of a hole in the exact size of everything you did. They will spend weeks staring at that hole, trying to understand its dimensions, and every dimension of it will be you. Which raises the obvious problem. If that is true, why did they never see you? Because a keeper is designed, by the very nature of keeping, to look like nothing happening. Real holding does not announce itself as holding. It arrives as smoothness, as calm, as a day that went fine. They experienced years of your labor as ordinary life, as a good stretch, as a place that was simply easy to be in. They did not see a person working. They saw a quiet season, and they took the credit for it, or took it for granted, which is the same wound wearing different clothes. Nothing happening was the shape of your work, and now that you're gone, they are learning, slowly, exactly how much nothing you were making happen every single day. And a keeper who is finally seen is a keeper who has already left. That is the cruel arithmetic of it. You only become visible in the shape of your leaving. While you were there, holding, you were transparent. The instant you stopped, the outline appeared, drawn in every failing thing, and by then you were already down the road with your bag. No, you did not leave too quietly. No, you did not owe them a scene. You gave them years of the loudest possible love, the kind that shows up and holds and asks for nothing, and they heard none of it. So you finally gave them the one language they could not fail to understand: absence. And now they know. The ones who overlooked you just found out what they were standing on the whole time, and it explains every steady year they never thought to question. So let me show you exactly how it works, chosen one. 12 pieces, one at a time. Now, before we go any further, this is the part where the room thins out. Some of you came here out of curiosity. You saw the title, you felt a small pull, you clicked. There is no judgment in that. But right around now, the merely curious start to drift. They go looking for the next thing, the next voice, the next promise. Let them go. This was never built to hold everyone. The ones this was made for are doing the opposite. You are leaning in. You got quieter. Something in your chest went still, the way it does when a stranger describes a room you just walked out of and gets every detail right. If that is you, chosen one, do this one thing. Go down to the comments and drop the number 999. Just that. Not for luck, not because it is trending. 999, the number of completion. the end of a cycle, the last door in a long hallway closing softly behind you. Drop it as a signal, plain and simple, that you are locked in and you intend to hear this all the way through. Consider it a quiet hand raised in a quiet room. I will see it. Others will see it, and they will know they are not the only one who left somewhere this year without making a sound. And while you are there, the like and the subscribe keep this reaching the people who need it. Here is what comes next. Not more feeling, not more comfort. 12 pieces laid out in order, precise and step by step, showing you exactly what your leaving set loose, why the room went cold, and why nothing they do now can call the keeping back. Number 1. The moment the temperature dropped. They did not go cold because of what you said on the way out. They went cold because you said nothing, and the nothing kept getting louder. What happened in that room had almost nothing to do with a fight, because there was no fight. That is what they cannot process. They were braced for the argument. Some part of them had the counter-argument ready, the way people always have it ready. The list of your faults, the reasons you were the difficult one, the story where they come out reasonable and you come out too sensitive. They were waiting to win that fight. They had been winning it in rehearsal for a long time, and you never showed up to have it. You just left. And a person holding a loaded argument with no one to fire it at is a strange and cold and foolish thing. The argument curdles in their hands. There is no target for it, no scene, no witness, nothing to point to and say, "See how they behaved?" There is only a quiet that they cannot argue with, because you cannot outshout a silence, and you cannot win against someone who declined to compete. Imagine this. A person standing braced in a doorway, both hands up, ready for a door that is about to be slammed in their face, ready to catch it, ready to slam it back, the whole body leaned into the coming collision. And the door does not slam. The door just closes, softly, with a click so gentle it is almost tender, and the person is left standing there with all their weight thrown forward against a force that never came, off balance, arms out, braced against nothing, in a hallway that is suddenly very quiet and very cold. That is the room you left. They leaned into a fight, and you closed the door like you were tucking in a child. And the softness of it is the thing that will not leave them alone. That is what happened. The temperature dropped not because you were cruel, but because you were kind in the one way that could not be answered. You cannot fight a person who wished you well and left. There is no handle on that. There is nothing to push against. There is only the slow, spreading understanding that the war they were prepared for was already over, and they had already lost it, and the loss came dressed as peace. Here's the line they can't say out loud. We wanted a fight, because a fight we could have won. They gave us a goodbye, and there is no winning a goodbye. That is why the room went cold, not anger, something worse than anger. The vertigo of swinging hard at empty air. No, you did not owe them the argument. No, you did not have to justify the leaving. You simply declined to hand them the scene they needed to make you the villain, and the absence of that scene is a silence they will be trying to fill for a very long time. Number 2. What they thought your quiet meant. They read your patience as endless, right up until the day it ended. For years, they mistook your steadiness for a resource with no bottom. That is the error underneath everything. Because you never complained loudly, they assumed there was nothing to complain about. Because you never said a limit out loud, they assumed you had no limit. Because you kept giving, they built their whole calculation on the belief that the giving was infinite. A well that would never run dry, no matter how many buckets went down. You were not a well. You were a person. And people have a floor. Here is what they never understood about the quiet ones. Quiet is not the absence of a breaking point. Quiet is a breaking point that approaches without warning, because the quiet person does not narrate the countdown. The loud ones tell you every time they are near the edge. They threaten to leave 100 times, and so they never do, and everyone learns to ignore the threat. But the quiet one never threatens. The quiet one simply reaches a morning, an ordinary morning, where the answer that was always yes becomes, without ceremony, no. And there was no warning, because you were never the type to warn. You were the type to endure, right up until the last hour of enduring, and then to go. Imagine this, a rope under a steady, growing load. It does not fray loudly. It does not announce each strand as it goes. It holds and looks exactly as strong as it did the day before, and everyone hanging their weight on it grows more confident by the year precisely because it has never given. And then the last strand goes, all at once, in silence, and the thing that seems strongest right up to the final second is suddenly gone, and everyone who leaned on it is on the floor, wondering what happened to a rope that was fine yesterday. It was not fine yesterday. It was one strand from gone and looked identical to full strength, because that is how quiet things break. That is what they leaned on, and they leaned harder every year, mistaking your endurance for permission, mistaking your patience for a promise that you would never do exactly the thing you just did. Here's the line they can't say out loud. We thought they'd never actually go because they never once said they would. No, your quiet was not a lie. No, you did not spring it on them. You were honest the entire time in a language they refused to learn, and the fluent, final sentence of that language was your empty chair. Number 3, what you actually took. Not the visible things, the invisible one they never priced. Now we arrive at the center, chosen one, at the who and the what I told you to hold. Here it is. You did not just remove yourself from that room. You removed the keeping. And it is time to say plainly what the keeping was and who it belonged to, so you never again let anyone tell you that you took nothing when you left. The keeping was every load you carried that never had your name on it. The emotional weather work, reading the moods, diffusing the tension before it detonated, managing other people's storms so they never had to feel their own thunder. The logistics nobody logs, the remembering, the anticipating, the 10 small saves a day that keep a life from tipping into chaos. The buffer you were, standing between the difficult ones and the consequences of their difficulty, absorbing the impact so the room stayed comfortable. All of that was labor. All of that was skill. All of that was yours, and you took every ounce of it out the door in a single, quiet trip. They never priced it because it never sent an invoice. That is the whole trap of invisible work. Its excellence is measured by how invisible it stays. Do it perfectly for years, and the people you do it for come to believe the smoothness is the natural state of the world, requiring no hands, no cost, no keeper at all. And before we go any deeper, chosen one, do one small thing. If this is landing where it was meant to land, Drop 999 in the comments, not for me, but as a quiet hand raised in a crowded room. A way of saying, I am here. I am one of the ones this was written for. 999. The number of a cycle finishing, a season closing on time, a thing completed. Leave it below and let the next chosen one see they are not the only one who stayed. Imagine this, a large old house, warm all winter, everyone inside living an ordinary life, coats off, arguing about small things, comfortable enough to be careless because nobody in a warm room ever thinks about warmth. And down in the basement, every night of every winter, unseen, unthanked, one person has been feeding the furnace by hand. It was never automatic. It only looked automatic because the one feeding it never made a sound. And then one winter, that person stops coming down the stairs, and the house does not go cold in an hour. It goes cold slowly, room by room, and the people upstairs pull their coats back on and complain about the draft and check the windows, and never once, for weeks, think to go down and look at the furnace, because they never knew there was anyone down there. That is what you took, not the furniture, the fire. It is not arrogance to think of yourself this way, chosen one. Arrogance claims credit it did not earn. You are being asked to finally accept credit you have refused for years. The humility that made you a great keeper is the same humility that lets people tell you that you were nothing, and you have to stop letting them, starting tonight. You were the fire. The cold in that house now is the exact measure of a heat they never bothered to name. Here's the line they can't say out loud. We didn't lose a helper. We lost the thing that was holding the whole climate together. No, you did not take too much. You took only what was always yours. The heat was yours. The keeping was yours. The piece they are now missing was manufactured nightly by hands they never looked at, and you have every right to carry those hands out the door and warm some place that will finally notice the fire. Number 4. Why the keeping had to stay silent. A gift that is announced becomes a debt, so yours never spoke. You have wondered, maybe, why you never demanded to be seen. Why you didn't keep score out loud when a single honest accounting might have earned you some gratitude. The answer matters because it is going to protect you from a lie you are about to be told. Here is what most people never learn. The moment you name the weight you carry for others, the weight changes shape. It stops being a gift and becomes a claim. It stops being love and becomes leverage. The people you carried will hear the naming not as truth, but as a bill, and they will do what people always do with a bill they don't want to pay. They will dispute it. They will tell you it wasn't that much. They will tell you they never asked. They will tell you you chose to do it, so it doesn't count. And you, standing there having finally spoken, will feel the whole thing curdle in your hands. So you stayed quiet, not because you were a fool, because you understood, at some level below words, that the keeping only kept its power as long as it asked for nothing. A silent gift can never be argued with. A named one can be denied into nothing. Imagine this, a hand held under a table all through a long dinner, quietly steadying a leg that would otherwise wobble and spill every glass on the cloth. Nobody at the table knows the hand is there. The dinner goes beautifully. The wine stays in the glasses. Everyone remembers a lovely, steady evening. Now imagine the hand comes out from under the table and says, look what I did. I held this whole meal together. In that instant, the magic is gone. Now there is a wobble everyone can suddenly feel, an obligation on the cloth. A debt where there was grace. The hand was only powerful in the dark. The keeping is only a gift while it is silent. You knew that. You kept your hand where it belonged. Now watch what this does to the ones you left. They are going to tell themselves you did nothing. Say it out loud, to each other, to feel better. She barely did anything. He was replaceable. And every time they say it, the room will get a little colder, because the room knows better than their mouths do. It can feel the missing hand under the table. The wobble is real now, and no amount of insisting it isn't will steady a single glass. Here's the line they can't say out loud. If we admit how much they did, we have to admit how little we noticed. So no, you did not fail to advocate for yourself. No, you were not weak for staying quiet about your worth. You protected the purity of the thing by never charging for it, and that purity is exactly why its absence is so total now. You cannot repossess a gift, but a gift withdrawn leaves a cleaner, deeper hole than any debt ever collected. Number 5. What stops working now? The maintenance was invisible, so the breakdown will be a mystery to them. Here is where it turns from feeling into machinery, chosen one. Everything you maintained silently, which means everything that now breaks will break silently too. No one able to trace the break back to its cause, because the cause was a kind of care that left no record. Think about what you were quietly doing, catching the small failures before they became visible failures. The forgotten thing you remembered, the dropped thread you picked up, the tension you released before it snapped. None of it was ever logged, because logging it would have made it a chore instead of a kindness. And so, now, when the small failures stop being caught, no one will understand why they are suddenly happening. They will think the world got harder. They will think they are unlucky. What they cannot think is the truth, that they lost the person who stood between them and the ordinary friction of being alive. Imagine this, a machine in a shop that has run smoothly for years, and everyone who works around it believes it is simply a good machine, a reliable one. But every night, after the shop empties, one worker stays a few minutes and oils it, clears the small jams, tightens the one bolt that always works loose. Nobody sees this. It happens after hours, by hand, without a word. And then that worker leaves for good, and the machine runs fine on the first day, and fine on the second. And by the second week, it is screeching, jamming, overheating, and the shop calls in expensive people to diagnose a machine everyone agrees was always so reliable. The experts find nothing wrong with the machine. There is nothing wrong with the machine. What is wrong is that the hands that kept it well are gone, and no diagnosis will ever find a pair of hands. It is not your job to hand them the manual, chosen one. You were the manual. You were the maintenance. You spent years being the instructions no one read, and you are under no obligation to leave a written copy behind for people who never once thanked the book. Let the machine screech. The screech is just your value, finally audible. Here's the line they can't say out loud. Everything used to just work, and now nothing does. And the only thing that changed is the one thing we swore didn't matter. No, you did not sabotage anything. You simply stopped repairing it. Those are entirely different acts, and only a person who never valued the repairs could confuse the two. The breakdown is not your doing. The breakdown is the shape of your absence, running in real time. Number 6. The favors that were you. Every door that used to open easily was a door you were quietly holding. There is a whole category of things that used to be smooth in that room, and they credited the smoothness to themselves, or to luck, or to the natural order. It was you. You were the reason the difficult neighbors stayed friendly. The reason the two people who couldn't stand each other still came to the same table. The reason the hard conversation always got easier, the tense day always softened by evening. You were the grease in every hinge, and grease is invisible, and a hinge that has grease just feels like a good hinge. Now the grease is gone, and every hinge in that room is starting to catch. Here is the mechanism nobody sees. Social smoothness is not free, and it is not automatic. Somebody makes the introduction, remembers the sore subject to avoid, absorbs the awkwardness so it never lands on anyone else. You were that somebody, so quietly and so consistently that the room came to believe it was simply full of people who naturally got along. They did not naturally get along. You were making them get along, hourly, and they mistook your labor for their own charm. Imagine this, a pond that always looks calm, glass flat, peaceful, and everyone who visits assumes it is naturally calm. But beneath the surface, unseen, one source keeps feeding in a slow, steady current, and that gentle current is the only reason the surface stays smooth instead of stagnating, souring, growing thick and green. Cut the source, and the pond does not become a storm. It becomes worse, still in the wrong way, stagnant, clouding, turning. And everyone stands on the bank saying, "What happened to our beautiful, calm pond?" And no one thinks of the current, because no one ever saw it, because a current you can see is not doing its job. Here's the line they can't say out loud. Everyone's suddenly at each other's throats, and the only thing missing is the one who used to keep the peace we called our own. No, you were not just being nice. You were doing skilled, exhausting, unpaid work, and you were doing it so well that it disappeared. The catching hinges, the souring pond, the peace coming apart at the seams, that is not chaos arriving. That is your labor departing, on schedule, with you. Number 7, what the absence exposed. With you there, everyone looked fine. With you gone, the room sees who was actually carrying what. Here is something they never accounted for, and it is already turning against them. As long as you were in that room doing the keeping, your presence covered for everyone. Your competence made the incompetence invisible. Your reliability let the unreliable ones look reliable by proximity. You were the tide that lifted every boat, and when the tide is in, you cannot tell which boats can float. You left, and the tide went out. And now every boat is sitting on the mud exactly as high or as low as it truly floats, and there is no hiding it anymore. This is the exposure, and it is entirely self-inflicted on their part. While you were there, the one who never pulled their weight could hide behind your pulling. The one who created the problems could hide behind your solving. Your absence did not create their weakness. Your absence simply stopped concealing it. Imagine this, a wide harbor at high tide, boats everywhere, all of them level, all of them floating, all of them looking equally seaworthy in the calm, bright water. You cannot tell from the surface which ones have hulls and which ones are half-rotted, which are moored and which are only floating because the water is high enough to lift anything. Then the tide goes out, all the way out, the way it always eventually does. And now you can see everything. The proud boat sitting crooked in the mud, the grand one that is actually holed below the line, the one that could never have floated on its own at all. Nothing changed about the boats. The water simply stopped doing their floating for them. You were the water, chosen one. And the tide is out now, and the harbor is telling the truth for the first time in years. You did not expose them by leaving. You simply stopped covering for them, and covering for people was never something you owed. There is a difference between pushing someone down and stepping out from under them. You stepped out. Whatever they sink to now is the level they were always at. You were just the water that flattered them. Here's the line they can't say out loud. It turns out most of us were only ever floating on them. No, you did not tear anyone down on your way out. You lifted your part of the load, that's all. And the load never knew how heavy it was because you never let it feel its own weight. Now it feels it, every ounce. That feeling is not your cruelty. It is your true value, arriving late and all at once. Number 8. Why the room reorganizes without you. A center that leaves does not get replaced. It gets grieved, and the grief looks like disorder. Watch what happens to a group when its quiet center is removed, because it is not what anyone expects. They expect a gap that someone will step into and fill. Instead, the whole shape of the thing loses its organizing principle. Every relationship that used to route through you now has nowhere to route, and the room falls into a slow, confused disorder that no single person can explain or fix. Because you were not just a member of that room, you were the hub. The conversations that used to pass through you now collide directly without your softening, and they spark. The tension you used to distribute across your own back now has nowhere to go, so it pools in the corners and turns the whole room brittle. You were the thing that made a collection of difficult people into a functioning group, and a functioning group, minus its function, is just a collection of difficult people in a cold room. Imagine this, a mobile hanging over a child's bed, a dozen small shapes all balanced against each other on delicate arms, turning slowly, perfectly poised. And the whole intricate balance depends on one central thread at the top, the single point everything else hangs from. Cut every outer string and the mobile is damaged but recognizable. Cut the one central thread and it does not become a simpler mobile. It becomes a pile. All those shapes held in perfect relation to one another collapse into a heap the instant the center is gone. Because the center was never one shape among many. It was the reason any of them held their place at all. You were the central thread. You did not leave a gap in the mobile. You ended the mobile. Here's the line they can't say out loud. We keep trying to put someone in their place, and the place keeps rejecting everyone we send. No, you did not leave them helpless out of spite. You simply took back a role you were never being paid for in any currency that mattered. The disorder in that room is not your revenge. It is the honest sound of a thing that was only ever held together by one quiet person, finally being asked to hold itself. Number 9. Their sleepless arithmetic. They are not missing you tonight. They are recounting, and the number keeps coming out wrong. Something has changed in the ones you left, and it is not simple sadness. It is arithmetic, a slow, private, circling count that will not resolve. Because they are trying to work out how a room this cold came from the departure of someone they were so sure did not matter. And the math will not close, and they cannot stop running it. They line it up like a ledger. What did that person actually do? They start listing your visible tasks, the ones with names, and the list is short. And that short list is supposed to prove you were replaceable. But the cold in the room is not short. The disorder is not short. The number of things going wrong is enormous, and it will not fit under the tiny heading of your visible tasks. So there is a gap, a huge, unaccounted gap between the little they can name that you did and the vast amount that has fallen apart since you did it. And they cannot find the missing entry because the missing entry has no name. It is the keeping. And the keeping was never in the ledger they know how to read. Imagine this, an accountant alone in an office after everyone has gone home. One column that will not balance. He adds it top to bottom and it comes out wrong. He adds it bottom to top and it comes out wrong differently. He sharpens the pencil, starts again, certain there is a single error to find and fix. And the reason he cannot find it is that the error is not in his addition. An entire column of value was being contributed by someone he never wrote into the books. Because that someone never asked to be written in, the ledger was always short a name. He just never noticed while the account was somehow, impossibly, always covered. Now it isn't covered, and the shortfall is exactly the size of the person he forgot to record. They cannot simply admit it and move on, because admitting it costs too much. To close the account honestly, they would have to write in, at last, everything you did, and that means facing every year they enjoyed it and never said thank you. The math only balances if they confess the debt, and the debt is unbearable. So they keep re-adding the column instead, all night, choosing the arithmetic over the apology. Here's the line they can't say out loud. The numbers don't add up because we left the most important line off the page, on purpose. And this is why nothing they do now brings the warmth back. They are trying to solve a math problem when what they have is a grief problem. They are looking for a task to reassign when what they lost was a person to cherish. They will hire, delegate, redistribute, reorganize, and the column will stay unbalanced. Because you cannot fill a keeping-shaped hole with anything but a keeper. And keepers do not answer the ads of people who did not value the last one. Number 10, they cannot name what they lost. You can advertise for a job. You cannot advertise for a person nobody wrote a description of. Here is the thing nobody says out loud about your kind of absence. It is not the loss of a role that terrifies a room. Roles can be refilled. What terrifies them is a loss with no name, a hole in the shape of something they never defined and therefore cannot request, cannot search for, cannot even describe to the person they are hoping will replace you. They are trying to find someone to be what you were, but they never knew what you were. Your whole function lived in the space between the named tasks, in the keeping, in the atmosphere, in the 10,000 micro-decisions that never had a title. So when they try to describe the opening, they can only list the visible parts, and the visible parts were never the point. They are advertising for a shell and wondering why no one arrives with the soul that used to fill it. Imagine this, a house where one room was always warm, and no one ever knew why. Because the warmth had no visible source, no fireplace, no vent anyone could find. Just a room that was always, somehow, the good room, the one everyone gathered in. And the warmth leaves, and now they want it back, so they go looking, and they cannot even tell the builder what to install, because they never knew what was warming it. They stand in the cold good room, unable to name the thing they miss, unable to order its replacement, because the source of the warmth was never a fixture. It was a presence, and you cannot buy a presence. You cannot post a job for a soul, and you cannot describe to a stranger the exact shape of the person who used to make the room worth being in. They seem more haunted now than when the fights were actually happening, and here is why. A fight is nameable. They could survive it, win it, tell a clean story about it. But a cold that has no cause they can point to, a loss they cannot articulate, a person-shaped absence with no words attached, that rewrites what they believed about their own room. It means the thing that made their life good was invisible to them the entire time they were living in it. Here's the line they can't say out loud. We don't even know what to look for because we never knew what we had. Chosen one, this is why your quiet exit costs them more than any fight ever could. A fight leaves them with a story and an enemy and a clean sense of what happened. Your quiet leaving leaves them with a haunting, a warmth they cannot resource, a name they cannot say, a hole they cannot fill because they were never awake enough to measure it. You did not give them a grievance. You gave them a mystery, and a mystery does not heal. It just gets colder. Number 11. You were never optional. Nobody notices the keystone until the arch is already leaning. There is a posture you have carried for years, and it is time to set it down for good. The posture of the one who is grateful to be included. The one who works twice as hard to justify their place. The one who suspects, quietly, that they could be replaced any day, and so keeps giving more, keeps holding more, keeps earning a seat they already owned. You have been living like a guest in a house you were secretly holding up. You were never optional. You were structural. And the leaning of that room, right now, is the proof you were never able to accept while you were standing inside it. Think about how this actually works. The load-bearing parts of anything are the parts you are least allowed to notice, because noticing them means admitting your dependence, and people hate dependence. So the essential ones get treated as the least important. The room could afford to praise the decorative, the loud, the ones who were safe to name because losing them would cost nothing. It could not afford to praise you. That would have meant admitting it could not survive you leaving. So it called you optional and leaned on you completely at the same time. And you believed the calling and never felt the leaning. Imagine this. A grand old ceiling held up by many columns, and along the sides, ornate carved ones, admired, photographed, called the important ones. And in the center, plain, unadorned, one column that no one ever mentions. So unremarkable that during a renovation, someone even suggests removing it to open up the space. It's just in the way. It can't be doing much. And the day they take it out to see, the ceiling begins, slowly, to come down. Not the carved ones. The plain one was always the one holding the weight. It was plain because it was working, and it was unmentioned because mentioning it would have meant admitting the whole beautiful ceiling hung on something nobody wanted to depend on. You with a plain center column. And the ceiling is coming down, chosen one. The loudest possible argument that you were never in the way. You were the only reason there was a room at all. And notice why they let you believe you were replaceable. A structure that knows its own worth becomes expensive. Keep the load-bearing one convinced it is optional, and it will hold up the whole building for the price of a little conditional inclusion. Your uncertainty was not an accident. It was the cheapest way to keep the keystone in place, and it worked, right up until the keystone learned it could walk. Here's the line they can't say out loud. We called them optional, so we'd never have to pay what they were worth. So walk differently now.